Okay, in this video we're going to make a custom route, and the way you make a custom route is to pick a starting point and drive around it, and the starting point has to be one of the existing races, so either a road, a cross country or a dirt race. For this one I've been looking at the map and planning a route, and the route I plan to take is from the city outskirts cross country starting point, and then to follow this little dirt track along, this gravel road, and then this muddy dirt track all the way along here, and then onto the road. Bit of a sharp corner at the bottom of the straight at the beginning of the wind farm circuit. Back along the road here and back to the starting point. It won't be a very big circuit, but you'll see that we'll make it into a blueprint later which will have multiple laps. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we do to start a route is we enter the event. Now this happens to be one of the festival events, the weekly events, and so we don't see a create route option, but if we press Y, if you see at the bottom it says switch to normal event. So if we press Y, and then we get the normal menu and we can create a route. So I'm going to take the car I happen to be in, with a very nice design by Schueber. Okay, so as I say, to create a route, all you do is drive it. So let's start. Now, if you just drive the route and that's all you do, then it'd be very easy for drivers just to drive in a little circle and back to the start point. So we need to put checkpoints in to make drivers go the right way, and we add a checkpoint by pressing X, and then you can change the size of the checkpoint with the right trigger and the left trigger, and you can move it around. So I like to have quite generous checkpoints. I don't like narrow checkpoints. My philosophy is that the challenge in a route should be the road, not the checkpoints. So I always aim to not have any checkpoints that you can't see. That's not always possible, and to have as few as you can get away with, and have the checkpoints show where you're supposed to be going. I tend to be generous on the outside of corners, so you'll see this checkpoint, I've actually set it up so players or drivers can go wide if they want to, but they can't go narrow, or they can't go narrower than the confines of the road. Okay, so that's another checkpoint. And always aim to be able to see the previous checkpoint from the next one. We'll have that just a little bit wider. There we go. And we're heading down the straight now towards the mud track that we're going to turn on to. Okay, so just double check we can see that checkpoint. If you've gone too far, then what you can do is rewind, and even if you've got rewind turned off, it still works when you're creating a route, or it should do, but actually it doesn't. That's very strange, because I do have rewind turned off. Never mind. I'll just have to be extra careful not to make any mistakes, because I can't rub them out. Okay, put your checkpoints on corners that you want people to go around. If this checkpoint wasn't here, then players could just nip across the field. That's not what you want. I'm going to leave them the option to cut that corner we just came around, because if they do, they'll hit the walls and it'll slow them down. And that is far too narrow really, isn't it? So we will be generous and let them just cut that corner a little bit. It will cost them, but otherwise you get half a dozen cars trying to get through a narrow checkpoint at once. It's no fun at all for anyone. Let's make it a bit wider. Not that wide. There we go. And again, let them cut that if they want. And again, another one too narrow. Make it a bit wider because I really don't like narrow checkpoints. I'm going to let them hit the stone wall as well. And round here, nice long straight. Yeah, again, they can go in the hedge if they want. This is quite a narrow little track. So it's inevitable that there are going to be narrow sections, and we'll just have to... that's not very well placed. And the reason that's not very well placed is one of the flags is hidden in the trees. So I think we're going to have to put up with a narrow checkpoint here. Okay, now here I'm putting one on the entry to the corner. Is that going to be visible? Probably not, but I don't want to make it any narrower. Getting them positioned just right is a bit tricky. So nothing on the exit to the corner because it doesn't matter. And then we'll put the next one here. Now this is an exception to my personal rule of always having them visible from the last one. That one won't be because they'll be coming round the corner at the wrong angle. However, because we're following a dirt track, they should be able to work out which way to go. There's no junctions or anything like that. Okay, again there will be an opportunity for cutting corners here. But not too worried about that. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing because we're coming up to a point where we're going to have to change. Yeah, let me show you on the map. We're coming up to a sharp left and then a sharp right, and I don't want to miss either because I can't rewind. Around about here. Incidentally, when the track is made, the driving line will be that's shown to the player will be what's on the what you're driving now. So yeah, let's put that there. So some people, when they're making tracks, try to drive the racing line. I'm afraid I'm not one of those people. Okay, so again, we're going to place a checkpoint on the entry to the corner. And I'm going to allow them to cut the corner. But I'm not worried about putting one right at the exit. Let's put it here. That should be wide enough. Now, up here we've got our road junction, and we need to signal to the player that they're going to be turning right, and I do that. I try to do that. Had I had rewind on, I would have remade this, but I try to do that by angling the checkpoint. And as soon as I can possibly put another checkpoint, I will. I'll make it nice and generous so that it will catch anyone coming round that corner, I think. No, it looks a bit unrealistic like that. Okay. And then just more of the same. At each turning point, we need a checkpoint, and we also need it to be visible from the previous one. Another one here. And we have coming up a bit of a dogleg turn, and then the junction. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because Forza does limit how close together you can put your checkpoints. And I hope that isn't too close to the junction that we're going to cross. I think this one might be a little far away. As soon as I can put a checkpoint, I will. Not letting me do it yet. There we are. Okay, now we've got a nice straight bit. We'll put a checkpoint on the corner, again making sure that we can see the previous one. Make that a bit wider. It's unlikely that anyone's going to go cross country there, but you never know. I don't know this car very well. No, I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to put it just after the junction. So it's obvious to drivers that they're not going to be turning left at that point. There is a technique called AI loops, or at least that's what I call it, where you make a detour off the main which drivers aren't expected to drive, and so you don't put any checkpoints on it. The AI will blindly follow that route, and it's intended to slow them down. Now, I've just spotted what I think might be a flaw with starting where I did. Now, if we go to the mini-map, to the map rather, the starting point for this race. And let's go to the map. The starting point for this race is actually behind that junction, and I don't want to have to go back to it. But I think we'll be all right if we just hit finish line. So we'll see. Oh no! Well, it's cross country, isn't it? Oh, rewind's working again. Thought it should have been. Let's rewind back as far as we possibly can, because we're going to have to vary what we first intended to do. I can see there's a dirt track up there. Can't get to it. Rewind won't work anymore. Could have gone up there. Have a look on the map. I don't think that would have helped us very much. Well, we're just going to have to gently deviate. This is now going to be a bit more cross-country than road. That's a shame. And since we want to go back to the start line, I think we can do this by driving to the finish, so let's do that. No, we can't. Well, that's torn it. Okay, let's test it. That wasn't what I'd hoped to make. The joys of starting positions in Forza. Should be unbeatable drivers. So I'm going to have my work cut out to catch them. Actually, judging by how many were behind me, they're highly skilled and not unbeatable. This is where it gets rather narrow. And notice the driving line is where I drove and not necessarily the optimal driving line. I haven't had much practice with this car. I think I missed the checkpoint. Evidently not. Well, other than the unpleasantness over the heather, other than the unpleasantness over the heather at the end, I quite like this little track so far. But this is the bit that can't see the checkpoint. Ah! I forgot to put a checkpoint. That's interesting. I have inadvertently added an AI route. Okay, now we save the route. I'm just going to call it loop. And the next thing it will do is give us the option to create a custom event. If you do that, then one of the options that you get will not be available, which is to set the class of car and the type of car. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to quit. Okay, so that's how you create the route. How do you use it? Well, you go into the game and then you choose create blueprint, and I don't know what we want. I actually like classic rally, so let's find that classic rally. Okay, and here we get to choose a route, and it will let us choose any routes that we've created that start at this starting point. So the one I just created was a loop, so we will use that one. Now, hang on, let's just have another look at that. It's 3 miles. I think 3 laps will do. So, oh dear, what to call it? Something simple. Road. road, gravel, mud. Event settings, this is where we can make it a bit interesting. I'm going to call this a dirt route. It's going to be 3 laps. The season, let's have it in spring, because everything's wet in spring. It doesn't really matter. We'll have the early afternoon. And the weather, it's just been raining, so the mud will be thick and all of that, we hope. Rolling time progression means that the weather can change, the time of day changes. Fixed, none of that happens. The environment remains exactly the same as when you started. Okay, confirm that. Got the car theme. We've chosen the event settings. Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't let me choose the class. No. Oh well. It'll be up to the people driving it then. And then create blueprint. And as with create route, you have to test the blueprint before you can share it. If I try and view sharecode now, there isn't one. So we have to run it. So let's run it. What shall we run it in? Have I got a dirt mini tuned? I'm not sure. I think that one might be dirt. No, let's take the Sunbeam Lotus. I won't make you sit through the whole race. I'll cut it. We'll just do the first lap and then the finish line, something like that. It doesn't incidentally matter whether you win or lose. All you're doing is running it. Right, so let's see, is it muddy? Yes it is, which means it'll be slippery. That's what we want. Okay, so we've got a sharp left-hander coming up. Bit wet for my tyres. Or for my driving. The latter, probably. Whoops, forgot about that. Yeah, even when I make a track, I can still make mistakes on it. Little detour across the heather coming up soon after this corner. And now we want to go to the finish line, let the AI do what the AI do. Okay, I'll probably cut the video here unless anything interesting happens, and I'll see you at the finish line. It's a real shame about the way the start line works, because it would have been very nice to have been able to have checkpoints along there to guide the driver which way to go, and also to have the driving line go the right way. Okay, so we will continue. And get through the inevitable wheel spin. And we should find ourselves more or less where we started. Might need to manoeuvre a little bit. Okay, so there is the starting point. And the point of doing this is simply to get the sharecode. So again, we switch to normal event, solo, and now here custom events, and our own custom events should appear first, and the sharecode is 584-823-534 if anybody wants to try it. Yeah, okay, so that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope it's useful, because obviously not everybody knows how to create a route. Now you do, and I hope I've given you some ideas about checkpoint placement as well. Thank you very much. Bye.